Wes, we've got a very special episode of Star Trek to cover today because we have the return of a fan favorite Star Trek character.
Wow.
And I think you know what I'm talking about. The Klingon D4, baby.
We rolled hot tonight, Clay. Get your Dungeons and Dragons books out. The D4 is back.
The D4 is back.
Did they say that?
Full frame, everything.
Full ass shot of the D4.
Michael and Sarah in full makeup for 30 seconds. The D4 gets only the best.
Is it did they say its name in this episode?
No, I don't believe they did.
Oh, that's funny. When I was actually during this, I sort of whenever that ship popped up, I was thinking back to it's Discovery, right? It's that Discovery season that they do that. Yeah, I was. Yeah. So I guess we were thinking along the same lines, if that's what you're thinking of too. But I don't know what that was. If somehow Discovery has supplanted that ship design as just being that scene where they reveal that that's what they've designed, I think Discovery has integrated itself into the franchise at this point. Yeah. Is it the D4? Or it is the D4, right? We're not just.
I believe so. I thought it was the D5, but then I looked up the D5, and that seems to be a different ship. But the D4 seems to be the classic one, I think.
Yeah,
I think so.
Let me see here. It's not the B4. It's a B4, right?
Oh, the B4?
The B4. I think it's the B4.
B4.
Yeah.
What?
We're not doing we're not doing. I think it's the B4. If you Google it, this is the ship that he is on, I think. Do you have the picture up?
I think it's the D4. I think it's a D.
Let me see. Let me go to the memory alpha here. And Sarah. Who is it? He's Kang. Let me see. It's here. I think you might be right. I mean, it's funny that they. And Kang's, it's a T'Inga class, which is a. What do we call this? What the hell? Or did you send me something?
So that's the picture. That's the ship design with the bulb in the front.
Yeah, and that's what he. So this is his, according to Memory Alpha. This is the ship. That he's on. Is that one?
Whatever.
It is that
one. It's the same fucking ship. It's close enough.
What is the B4? Hold on. What the fuck is the B4 then? We'll be done.
I don't know if there is a B4.
This is, but it's pulling up a T'Inga. That's what this is. When I search B4 Klingon ship, it gives me T'Inga class ship, which is this image.
Okay. I looked up B4 Klingon just on Google, and it just gave me a bunch of pictures of Klingons.
Let me see what a D4 is. The D4 class is the bird of prey. It's a small patrol ship.
That's too confusing because those two letters sound very close to each other.
They do.
That's going to be a mess.
and having a 6-year-old, I know that the B and the D are only differentiated by which way they face, which is a common 6-year-old question. So it's clearly confusing. Anyway, I didn't mean to stomp on your joke, but I thought I couldn't remember which one it was. But they're too close. Either way.
Do you watch Big Mouth by any chance?
No, I don't think so.
No, they had a running gag on this season of Big Mouth where anytime someone said 15, the other person would go, did you say 15 or 50?
Yeah.
And they would do it the other way where they'd say 50. Did you say 50 or 15?
Yep, it is. I work with someone with a strong Indian accent, and it's very difficult to determine if he's saying 15 or 50 at that time. I understand that joke. I get it. Well, anyway, we can talk about that Discovery episode again if we want to, because I think that's what it's all pointing back to. It's our own flashback.
Is your coworker's favorite Van Halen album 5150? I bet that would be difficult to talk about.
We've tried to dive into it, but we just can't get past the opening. What are we talking about, Salva? This is, I got to go back. I've clicked too many links. And now there we are. I'm back at Flashback. It's our own personal flashback of remembering Star Trek Discovery. What a show. This is Flashback, the second episode of the third season of Voyager. It came out on September 11th, dear God, 1996. So few. Written by Brandon Braga, directed by David Livingston. in-universe date 50126.4, which is 2373. And also, what year, Clay? What year is the flashback take place in, if this is 2373 in Voyager's time?
80 years before that.
2293. When Tuvok begins to suffer from a mental breakdown triggered by a suppressed memory, a mind meld with Janeway takes him back to his tour of duty, but he can't go back, he knows, with Captain Sulu aboard the USS Excelsior. So basically he goes back and he relives a moment from his past because he's got some brain farts happening to him.
I love the part where Janeway, they show up in his mind, and then Janeway was like, why is this Bryan Adams song playing? Are you feeling
not complaining,
wistful and nostalgic for the band you used to be in?
Tuvok's hair is just much more fashionable than it is right now. Yeah, flashback. We go back, we see Sulu, we see what he was doing during the undiscovered country, fucking around in a nebula. We learn about Tuvok a little bit. We get to see a girl fall into the Grand Canyon alien hell 5,000 times. It's everything we got.
That towards the end, when they did the montage of people holding her hand, that was like a fucking airplane joke.
A lot of the black kids just saying like jive turkeys if he's not actually straight out of
I
Africa.
was expecting them to cut back and there'd be like a nun, and then they would cut back again and it would be like, Marshall McLuhan or something weird like that.
Hare Krishna is up next. Yeah. a lot of that shot. What do you think about this? I'll throw it to you by just saying I was pretty bored by this one, actually. I thought this was a really boring episode.
Yeah. I thought it was fun because I am a sucker for, the old costumes and some of the TOS, especially the movie era stuff.
Yeah.
But boy, is this episode a mess as far as like
being entertaining
and like structure and man, the end, the last scene again on the show is just like you went through all that shit for you, and you basically throw it out for the sake of Tuvok doing like a Paramount ad for the other shows of Star Trek, where it's like that stuff was all crazy, but I do have to say that Captain Kirk was the best captain, and I would be delighted to spend more time in the period of Sulu and Bones and Spock. And Janeway's like, yes, me too. I would love to do the same thing. Tuesdays on Paramount Plus. But it's like, it's like, I don't even know what the hell this episode was about ultimately.
Yeah, not about much.
Because like they get into this repressed memory thing, and then all of a sudden you find out the repressed memory is fake, because it's like a memory virus, which is, I guess, kind of a fun idea. But like that gets really jumbled up and muddy really quick. And then it all comes down to there's not like anything really that is Tuvok needs to work through. It's just bringing him back to the moment where this other guy on the ship died and he caught the virus.
Yeah, he got sick. Yeah.
And once they figure that out, it's like, oh, okay, fuck it, we figured it out. We killed the virus off screen through radio waves or whatever, and then it's just over now. And I was like, what was this about?
It's
because like they have that final. I feel like that final scene, you could have at least tried to pull things together and have Tuvok make some like overarching statement about who he is as a person now, or I don't know, something. But like the guy who died, it's not like he was particularly close to that guy, it seemed.
No.
And then like, there's no moment where I never got the sense that this guy's death was like a defining moment for Tuvok. I guess maybe because that's what made him leave Starfleet. You could go that route, but like,
yeah, well, he does dramatically scream, "Get away from that console!" Like David or whatever that guy's name is. Every time it blows up in his face, and he goes, "No!" But it's not well like defined as a relationship.
Yeah, they kind of give you a bit of the thematic stuff like halfway through when he's telling Janeway about why he left Starfleet.
Listen, that's the actual interesting Star Trek episode,
right?
Yeah,
and that stuff was fairly interesting, but like ultimately, I don't really feel like he gets anything out of this. Like this is ultimately just let's explore some of Tuvok's backstory for no particular reason.
Yeah, I think it's definitely designed just to bring back Sulu in the Excelsior and stuff, and to show what's going on at the time when the undiscovered country is happening.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it really doesn't have anything else to do with anything. Like I think that the only really interesting thing about this episode to me is the fact that like Tuvok sort of explains his backstory of Starfleet, and it's kind of fascinating that he's been alive for so long and seen so much, and also that he took like a 50-year sabbatical from Starfleet for a little bit. And you know, seeing his flashback to being in that sabbatical, I can just imagine so many ways that episode could go and be interesting about him. But it's just the moment before he goes on that sabbatical, right? Like this is the thing that causes that to happen. And then it's all revealed to just be the mind virus thing that he got infected by at this point, and now he's carrying it for whatever. Yeah, it's I just thought it's the worst kind of it's not the worst kind, but it's like it's a really ineffective homage episode.
Yeah.
And like the obvious comparison is coming out at the same time, what's the DS9 Trials and Tribulations, the DS9 episode. A much better idea that's pretty much the same thing, but just done much better.
Yeah, it's an odd choice. I mean, I liked seeing Sulu. I thought he got a really good introduction, like walking through the smoke, and you have the big camera move. That was great.
It was good. Yeah, cut to the credits. Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Janeway doesn't even talk to him because she can't.
No.
She's just a memory walking around.
Well,
she can talk to Tuvok.
She could at the end, because then all of a sudden, for some reason, his memories could see her because he was dying or something. And then she was dying or something, and then both of their brains were dying. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like there was, it was, they didn't have Janeway interact with Sulu at all, which they go out of their way to say she can't do or something because if the memory goes off course, it'll cause him permanent brain damage or something. And so they come up with this wild idea where it's like they've been there for a while and seen some stuff before this moment, and then she's like, what if we relive this again? And I was like, okay, so they're going to go back a couple minutes. No, they go all the way back to the beginning where Janeway now has to steal someone's clothes.
Yep.
And then they, I guess, relive the entire 3 days or something that they covered just to get to, it just seemed sloppy to me. It was just it was like fun ideas, but I don't think it was particularly tightly structured or written. Is the goatee guy who dies, is he in the movie? I think he's in the movie because he looked really familiar.
Is he? I mean, was he flip-flopping between a Russian accent, or was he? I felt like sometimes he wasn't speaking with a Russian accent, and sometimes it sounded like he was. Maybe that's just me, but he.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
I don't know if it was the first time he talked or something. He sounded like he was doing like a Chekhov riff or something. But I don't know if there's another similarly bearded fellow who's in the movie and he just looks similar. They went down that route.
Also, the woman.
Yeah,
with the blonde hair. Okay, she's from the old show, right?
Yeah, that's Grace Lee Whitney, I think, the actress who plays is Rand, right?
Yes,
yeah. Kirk's like woman assistant in the first couple episodes.
And yes, he is on the Excelsior in Star Trek 6.
Oh, that guy is.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So yeah, they're pulling out all the stops in a way that is irrelevant.
Yeah, I know. I applaud their continuity, but
Tuvok doesn't even talk to Sulu in this in any meaningful way.
No, I was he gives him a cup of tea, which
gives him a cup of tea.
Those,
yeah, he sucks ass a little bit. Yeah,
those Excelsior tea cups are nice. I was actually legitimately surprised that they used the Excelsior set. Because I was just assuming they would do something to save money where it's like, wait, we're on the Excelsior, but the bridge looks just like Voyager. It's like, oh, that's your memory.
Yeah, memory's getting
bleeding
confused.
in. Yeah. But they actually busted out the Excelsior set, which is fun. And I love seeing that ship. I always like the Excelsior design.
Yeah, the bridge design is pretty cool. I like it. It's I think I generally like the one captain seat design. I know it feels it's old. It's of the older era with Kirk and everything like that. And now with TNG, they moved into sort of like it's not just the head of the beast, but there's 3 heads or whatever. And Voyager has a couple seats, maybe just 2, but at least there's a couple of them. But I like I just like the focus design of the Excelsior and TOS bridge. Just everything is the captain, who's like literally sitting on like the sort of like an iron throne in the middle of the room. I like that stuff. I like the design of it and everything.
Yeah, and I love the exterior, like the shape of the ship and stuff.
I think it's one of my favorite designs. I like the Excelsior class design. I think it looks neat.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those, I assume that's an ILM design from when they were doing the movies.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know who does the concept art for that stuff, but it was, it's a good looking ship. The only thing that I don't like about it, though, is I don't like when the Enterprise B was an Excelsior ship.
Oh, okay.
Because, I don't know, the Enterprise should be something else.
Different than that, yeah. Well, it was of the era. I think it was like the '57 Chevy of that era of Starfleet. Every ship was that kind.
Also, again, probably cheaper to do that than to design a new Enterprise.
Why do you not like the Excelsior as the B? I always thought I liked the. I think it's called the C is what I think is called an ambassador class, and I do like the evolution of the C to the D. Like the C looks like a fatter, chunkier version of the Enterprise D. So it feels like a natural design flow. The Excelsior, the problem I think is that the Excelsior is so sleek, and then it moves to this sort of like fat thing after it. It doesn't seem like it makes a lot of design sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like the Excelsior being a separate ship. Because I think of the Enterprise as one ship and the Excelsior as another. So to make
I see what you mean.
The Enterprise an Excelsior class ship, if I don't know if that's what the class is.
Yes, that is the class, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because it's the I guess it does. Yeah, it doesn't reference any. They had that DS9 episode where the Dominion made that its suicide run against the Galaxy class ship that was not the Enterprise, but was a Galaxy class ship nonetheless. It's along the same lines.
I think that's kind of what it is. Like, I understand that they're going to build more than one ship per name.
Yeah.
But, it's just a thing where it's like, no, that's the Enterprise. It's not the USS Falcon or something, you know?
Yeah. 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 And I guess the Excelsior would be the first class of that first ship of that class if it's named after it, is the way it works. So I guess because it was in the movies, right? It was supposed to be a cutting edge ship, or am I just imagining?
I think so.
That? Yeah, I think so.
Probably, yeah.
Anyway, back to this episode. Yeah, not a favorite of mine. I liked Tim Russ's Tuvok acting in the start when he starts to like lose his mind and starts stumbling down the halls and everything like that. Could have done with a little bit less of the no, Tuvok, help me. As terrifying as that was, because that is quite a cliff that she fell off of.
Especially with something like that, when you are giving this supposedly repressed memory about a young friend of yours falling to their death down the Grand Canyon because you couldn't hold on to their hand. I feel like if you're going to bait and switch that as a fake memory, you need to replace it in the story with something equally as weighty. You
mean the cause has to be as weighty? Like the virus, or you mean that he's covering up something equally weighty?
No, like it's one of those things where it's like, here's the thing he's trying to figure out, right? Well, that turns out to be a fake. So the thing that he actually finds out along the way has to occupy like the same narrative space.
Gotcha.
So for him to have something as traumatic as that be fake, I feel like he has to discover something that has the same emotional weight to make this episode feel like it's about something, which it does not feel like it's about anything.
Right, gotcha. Yeah. So you're saying that skimping out by having a sort of tertiary story connected to a mind virus MacGuffin or whatever. It's not even a MacGuffin. It's just a sort of a mind virus escape hatch.
It's not a MacGuffin. Yeah. It's just like a made-up thing to get them out of the story.
Yeah, it's just the exit of the story. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. At that point, I'd kind of sort of checked out of the episode because you know that there's only like 2 minutes left in it, and it's like, all right, whatever this explanation is not going to be nearly as interesting as what I would hope it would be. And also it was I wasn't even really interested in the solution at the end. It just, I think it was just because, as you're saying, there's like there's so little of a narrative drive in it that it's just like, whatever. Like, how is this going to end? Who cares? I guess this whole thing was designed around Sulu.
I'm not even totally sure what happened at the end. They just kind of like were looking at these memory engrams or something, and they're like, wait, there's 3, and now there's 2, and now one of them's moved into Janeway. Turn that dial. Okay. Now it looks like it's going away. Oh, thank God we did it.
We did it. That's classic.
It was just
Voyager.
like one of those
That's
things.
Classic Voyager, twisting some dial action. Yeah, it's too bad. Any scene in particular that you sort of dug out of this one? Is there any? I liked Tuvok talking to Rand about the tea. I thought that was kind of neat. I feel they did Janeway sort of, she does this sort of like weird lip service about like, oh boy, I wish I could find myself in a Kirk Spock sandwich, where she starts thinking about that. I thought that something that was kind of fun that I wish they had played with more is that they do make sort of overt in this episode that like the Kirk era was a little bit different of an era for Star Trek, like the franchise. Yeah. And I wish they had played with that a little bit more. They don't really. It's just Janeway talking about it. Like even when Tuvok stands up to Sulu and says like, I don't think this is the right thing to do, to go after the Klingons and disobey our orders. It's not really connected to this was a different era and things had to be done differently on the ship.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought Harry Kim being like struck by, he's like, there's no holodecks? Like, what the hell do you do? I thought that could have been kind of fun to explore because they haven't done it to this point, but they don't really touch on it at all.
Well, I think the scene that I liked the most was probably that scene when Tuvok objects to what they're doing, and Sulu kind of gives him the rundown of why they're doing it. And like, I thought that was going to be more important. Like this idea that the rules as written are not necessarily the only or best way to do things.
Yeah. You're making, what does he say? You're making the right choice. You're right, but for the wrong reasons. Sulu says something like that.
Yeah. And so I thought that was going to lead into Tuvok's having a better understanding of something that was going to relate to the plot later, which it doesn't. And then, but even after that, after that speech, the first thing that happens is Janeway walks over and goes, you did the right thing. And it's like, well, okay. Yeah. So what are we supposed to take away from this here? Yeah. Like I get that Tuvok, this whole experience is what soured him on the Federation and on Starfleet. But I feel like there's no swing back in the story on the other side of that, where like, you know, he talks about why he came back, which was one of my favorite scenes, because he's like, Janeway's like, what brought you back to Starfleet? And he basically says, well, I had children and I just had to get the fuck out of there.
I had to leave the
house. But like, you know, it doesn't lead into him making any sort of like personality change or tactical change to solve the problem or anything. It just kind of all happens. And it's all people talking at each other, and then it's just over.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Like Tuvok has no real, I think, what do they call it, an inflection point for a character. There's no hinge for him here. It's just he was there in the past, and therefore he can go back and be the medium through which Janeway sees all this story happening, but it doesn't really involve him in any way outside of getting sick. So you end up with no conflict. He has no ability to challenge anything. He has no ability to change how things happen in the bigger part of the franchise.
Yeah,
you know?
Like imagine, like, what if he had at a certain point, the thing starts to spread over to Janeway, and then the doctor breaks the mind meld, and so Janeway's now like comatose or something, and so the doctor needs to figure out blah blah blah, and he's like, I need to go back in there, and the doctor's like, well, you can't do that, because if you do that, you might blah blah blah, because these are the ethical reasons why you can't. And then Tuvok's like, listen, I know it's the right thing it's the wrong thing to do for the right reasons. And then he goes back in and that, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you don't get any of that because there's no like real narrative drive in the story.
Yep. Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, I just found it, I don't know. I watching it, I found it unique to watch. It felt different than a lot of the other episodes. I don't really know why. I'm not super enamored with the TOS era. I mean, I think the designs are neat and it's kind of fun to go back, but it's not strong enough of a pull for me where you can just not do anything with it.
Right.
And Trials and Tribulations is just the opposite, where it's, it changes events in that episode. Like once you see the DS9 episode, you go like, oh, there's a whole thing going on in the background of the TOS episode, which is kind of cool and kind of neat to think about. But this is not that. It's just kind of slow, tedious. Even the hook of a traumatic memory being suppressed got a yawn from me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that's just one of those like, oh boy, here we go. And it actually ended up being even more underwhelming than I thought it was going to be. So that's never a trajectory that you want to go on. So nothing good.
Yeah, like this is going to be a weird comparison to make, I think, but this is kind of like if you took the finale of Enterprise, with Riker going back in to see what happened to the Enterprise did, blah 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 blah, and if it's like if the end of that Troy came over and was like, Will, why did you decide to go back and relive that? And he was like, I don't know, just seemed kind of fun. Like that's what's missing is that there's nothing learned really by Tuvok from reliving this experience.
No.
We learned stuff about him, which I mean, yeah, fine, whatever, but it's not a story, it's just a bunch of exposition.
Yeah. And then cures the disease at the end, thankfully for him. All right, I don't know if we have much else to say about this one, really, so we'll just go to patron thoughts, I think. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you enjoyed the content today, patreon.com/The Pensky File, the best way to support us. You leave your thoughts about upcoming episodes. We read them. You get extra podcasts, blickety-blop, blah, blah, blah. This one is Flashback. Let me open your little Discord window so I can send things to you.
How did you feel about Vulcan Jenga?
I liked it. I like the way Tuvok represents Vulcans, I think.
Yeah.
That thing kind of looks silly, and it is kind of a silly concept, but it does feel like it's fitting of the Vulcans to me. I would think the Vulcans would be sort of beyond like a what's that store in every mall that's cutting edge? Is that what that's? Was that
like a Brookstone?
Yeah, Brookstone, where they just sell like little gimmick toys, basically. It feels like that, and maybe the Vulcans wouldn't exactly be that, but I when he's talking about it, it makes sense to me.
The store every dad got a back massager for Christmas from their kids for between 1992 and 1999,
and a pair of like electric heated socks or something like that.
Yeah, or one of those the balls that click back and forth.
Yep, it's good. Yeah.
Oh no, the other one, the spinny one. That one that was like it's like a bunch of bent metal, but it has like a weight on it and it just spins.
Oh yeah,
in like weird shapes, and the metal, like the metal design spins and stuff.
Yeah. The electric ball.
That was a great piece of shit.
I wonder if Brookstone survived the pandemic, but we'll never know.
With no one to come in and just try out the massage chairs all day.
That's why we're all so stressed. The Brookstones went away and everyone got antsy. Kyle Barrett says, does Clay's dislike of unnecessary travel translate to flashbacks? Because it seems to me they return to the present having learnt nothing, ask the exact same questions they had before, and then travel back again to get the answers they could have got the first time. Other than the opening with the exact same Neelix scene we've seen many times before, I enjoy this episode as an Undiscovered Country fan, even though DS9 has the by far better anniversary episode. I know everyone was old in the movie, but good lord, this is the USS Geriatric, where the 107-year-old Tuvok is considered the young buck. It's disconcerting going straight from the new 4K release of Undiscovered Country to this 4x3 SD Voyager episode, and the fact that they chose to show many of the people this parasite has infected by suddenly jump cutting to a black kid in stereotypical African garb made me erupt with laughter. 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, she's there for I don't know, sentimental reasons because she used to be on the old show or something.
Rand,
but
yeah.
like cut Rand at that position is like, imagine if you're flying like a B-52 bomber about to drop a payload on Berlin or something, and you're the guy who's targeting for you is like 108 years old.
There's no ageism in the Federation at this time. You can just be you don't need to retire. You can just be out there forever. Norman Buckwald, I'll read this one. It's quick. Help me, Wes and Clay. No. Wish there was a Sulu Excelsior series instead of this one, where somehow in Star Trek VI the guy rises from the dead. 2 arm grasp viruses over a cliff out of 5. This one's quick, too. Concito, why does Trials and Tribulations feel like a warm-hearted tribute, but this one feels like a cynical fan service episode? Maybe because Sulu doesn't actually get to do much or have any meaningful interaction with Tuvok. 1 out of 5. All right, here's Tax Owl Bear. I'll send this one to you.
Tax Owl Bear. 2W. What's 2W?
2 weeks. He wrote it 2 weeks ago. I just copied everything.
2 weeks. Flashback. Nothing says lost in the Delta Quadrant like dragging things from the Alpha. Okay, sorry. Nothing says lost in the Delta Quadrant like dragging things from the Alpha Quadrant there. This would bother me less if Sulu actually had some meaningful interaction with Tuvok, but the only lesson here seems to be that you should bribe your superiors with tea.
He wasn't doing that. He made it very clear. He was just being sycophantic for no reason. Aaron Million says, Flashback, this is a complete fan service here. You either love seeing Sulu and, to a lesser extent, Janice Rand again, or you don't. I do, but this episode leaves a lot to be desired. A bulky plot with a muddled explanation of what Tuvok was experiencing and why, superficial interaction between Sulu and Tuvok, and no dialogue between Sulu and Janeway. Sulu briefly yelling at her doesn't count as Janeway remains silent. I would have rather seen Janeway have some type of conversation, no matter how brief, with Sulu, a la Sisko and Kirk in the DS9 episode, Trials and Tribulations. I appreciate the effort and thought to get Sulu and Rand into an episode, but the execution is mediocre. 4 spilled cups of tea for Captain Sulu out of 5. I'm giving 4 instead of 3 here, solely due to Sulu.
Why is it so difficult for Star Trek to realize that they just got to get their captains on the bridge of a ship together and just let them interact?
Yeah. I know.
You know, like it's the biggest problem.
They think it's too obvious, I think, maybe, you know?
Yeah, like we said before, like I said before, the biggest problem with Generations is they don't put Kirk on the fucking ship.
Mm-hmm.
And here you've got Janeway on the Excelsior and you've got Sulu, who many call the Janeway of TOS. It just like, I don't know. I feel like they should interact.
Yeah.
You know, there's the fact that they don't, and it just turns into Sulu going, wait, who are you? Get off my ship. Not super, I don't know.
I know Sulu is...
that wasn't a gay joke, by the way. It was just there was a hierarchy of captain's power joke.
Sulu is on top. Dude, I don't even want to tell you what these guys thought that meant. So, you know, Sulu is sort of larger than life in terms of the franchise, just because Takei has been around forever and Sulu's been in a lot. But, like, honestly, what does Sulu have to say to anybody? You know, like I'm a little critical of the character in this regard, just because I don't know what that character can actually say to anybody. He's not Kirk. He's not Spock. He's not even McCoy. Like,
can I ask a question that might be sacrilegious, given how much Star Trek that the two of us have watched over the years?
Hopefully, I know the answer then.
What is Sulu's character? Like, have we spent enough time with him, full stop, to know anything about him?
No, that's my point. Yeah. I don't know what he is outside of he drives the ship.
Yeah, like he's having him be a captain is cool, you know, in the same way like Worf being captain is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I know a lot more about Worf than I do Sulu, and that's not Takai's fault or anything. It's just
that's the way the series was. He's just a supporting character in the 60s show, and in the movies, he tags along for various things.
So what I'm saying is in about 40 more years, get ready for the tribute episode where someone jumps back in time to the bridge of the predecessor of the Excelsior, which is helmed by the girl with the weird robot thing on her face from Discovery.
All right.
The one who has PTSD about flying ships.
That one. I was thinking Arium, but yeah, the whatever the PTSD girl is, she's certainly a character that I think could really drive home a plot of some franchise in the future.
But you know what I mean, though? Like, I think we're talking about the same thing, where it's like I don't know enough about, like, George Takei is more of a character than Sulu is.
Yes,
honestly, to me.
Yes, exactly. Takei has given that character life in a way that the character does not have outside of that.
Which, hats off to him for doing that. Yeah, absolutely.
Although when you go back, now you just see Sulu as Takei, really.
Sure.
It's not that big of a leap. Jonathan J.K. Moore, sorry, these are all short. I don't think people had a lot to say about this one. Jonathan J.K. Moore says, could have been better. Paramount today would do a limited series with Sulu, something we get plenty of now in the streaming age, but asked for nearly 30 years ago. It's an honest attempt of celebration, but mostly meh in terms of story, but I enjoyed the respectable integration into Star Trek. Star Trek 6, I thought it was going to be, so he gives it a 2.5, and he's mentioned Star Trek 6. I thought he was saying 6.2 out of 5. Next. A lot of people just writing Flashback. Here is Jaron Hatch. I'll let you read this one because it's a little bit longer.
On its own,
it's
on its own.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Sorry, yep.
On its own, it's fine for what it is. Compared to Trials and Tribulations, however, it's a dismal failure. Anniversary specials need to come with a wink and a smile, not wallow in the terribly uninteresting plot details that make the nostalgia scenario happen in the first place. It takes itself far too seriously and too easily embraces Voyager functionalism, where the story is more concerned with getting from A to B than in exploring anything meaningful. Still, it's fun to see George Takei on the bridge of the Excelsior, even if you have to sit through a million scenes of that girl falling to her fuzzy green screen death to get there. 3 monster maroons out of 5.
Yeah. I like Voyager functionalism. I like that as a descriptor. Changeling says, first of all, props to having an episode called Flashback, and it's not a clip show.
Yeah,
I also dig Tuvok's backstory of not being full on Starfleet from the beginning and trying to pursue a different life at some point. As a side note, it's kind of funny how an original cast member coming back used to be a big deal because it was so rare, and now it's so prevalent that even they bring back actors from the grave. 4 flashes of child ethnic stereotypes out of 5.
I was actually thinking about that while I was watching this. And I was thinking, like, man, why don't they? Do you think there's someone out there being like, do you think we can get George Takei on Strange New Worlds?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was going to say Shatner, but like that doesn't make any sense. And
it has to be time travel either way.
Oh, of course,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
But I just mean like he's so much older than he was when he supposedly died.
Correct.
At this point.
Yeah.
But like I feel like I don't think he would do it anyway. But I feel like you could get George Takei. Like we don't know what Sulu's fate is. I don't think. So I don't see why you couldn't do some time travel shenanigans and put Sulu on the Enterprise for an episode. That'd be kind of fun.
It's true.
Or even, fuck, Janeway. Get Janeway on the ship.
Well, she's on Prodigy now.
Yeah, so what? Let's be on 2 shows.
I don't entirely disagree, but, for all of the horrible things that Roddenberry did in the first couple seasons of TNG, I really respect his thing of like, I'm not doing the same shit I did last time. Yeah. I'm not bringing anybody in to this show. I'm not even talking about Vulcans on this show, so fuck you. Yeah. Pretty impressive. And for a series that was not good at that time, that he didn't even bail on that idea. He held to his guns.
Man, isn't that the most interesting thing watching these shows is seeing how quickly they start to bail on that?
No, once he's gone, they're just like, we need Spock, we need McCoy, we need everybody.
Not even that show. Like watching all these subsequent shows too, where it's like this one, Voyager's like has such a great setup, as we've said many, many times. But then like kind of late last season, they start going like, hey, you remember Data?
Yeah.
Hey, you remember
Riker?
Kirk?
Yep.
Remember Riker? We can get Riker on the show if you want. We can get Riker and Q. Not that Q, a different one. He's cool too. And John Singer Sargent, or whoever the fuck the other people were in this. But this, and then this season we get Sulu. You look at Discovery, they hit the fucking Enterprise button as hard as they could in the first season.
Yeah.
Even Strange New World, where do you go when you're already set on the Enterprise and you've already got Spock? Well, apparently you introduce Captain fucking Kirk. That's where you go.
Oh, how did they meet, Clay? How did they meet? I need to know.
It's a show about Mr. Spock and Captain Kirk, and they were both kids.
It's a show dedicated to the idea that another captain was standing between their relationship, and we should hate that captain, Captain Pike, for just interfering with what would have been a blossoming romance.
I mean, not to go off on that, but like that's a story they covered in the movies fairly well.
Yeah.
What more is there to say about Kirk, Spock, and Pike that they don't finish up in the first half an hour of Into Darkness, which is actually pretty solid.
Yep.
But anyway, I digress.
No, it's true. It's as we've been doing this podcast for so long, we're now practically done with our PhD level dissertation on what this is, and I think it's a like the physics of a star consuming itself and turning into a black hole. I think franchises just become self-referential and then draw into themselves and end up nothing by the end of it. I think the more that they go back to that well, it's just a sign of weakness, really, more than anything. Yeah. It's not so bad here. Like they're trying to do an anniversary special or something like that, and that's all fine, I guess. But I don't know. It's like people are saying, if it's not Trials and Tribulations level of interesting, then it's not worth doing just because you have the ability to do it.
Yeah. Speaking of franchises, this is an even bigger digression. I'm watching like probably one of the best sequels I've ever seen, and it's Addams Family Values.
Okay. Yeah.
We watched the Wednesday show, which was which was good. It was enjoyable. And then we went back and we were watching the Addams Family movies from the 90s. And the first Addams Family movie is a lot of fun. But the second one, man, fucking amazing. It's so good. And like it's one of those sequels where they manage to essentially kind of structure things more or less the same. But the stuff that they do inside that structure is very novel and different and fun.
Yep.
So it doesn't end up being Ghostbusters 2 where it's just literally the same movie again.
Right. It's
got a lot of the same kind of beats, but they kind of take the things that were great about the first one and just kind of dial them up. So there's, like Christina Ricci was the breakout star, I think, from the first one. So there's a lot more with her in it. You get Gomez doing a lot of big booming speeches, which are a lot of fun. It's just, it's good. I don't remember it being as good as it is. Anyway.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even remembered it if you brought it up. Without if you had asked me to name the sequel to the movie, I wouldn't have been able to remember it, I don't think, at this point. Point extra G, did I read this one? No. The entire Tuvok memory engram story is, quite frankly, a bit too weird to really work. The best parts of this episode are the glimpses into what Sulu is doing during the undiscovered country. I think it's great that he tried to mount his own rescue of Kirk and McCoy, and seeing Michael Ansara's Kang from TOS is a nice treat. I also appreciate the tiny detail in costuming that Rand's uniform doesn't properly fit Janeway.
I did notice that too. I thought that was good.
Here is the undiscovered Mugato with Flashback.
My favorite part was when the doctor said, "Please wear this neurocortical monitor." Tuvok said, "Fuck you, Doc, my freedoms."
Mm-hmm.
My favorite part is that I said neurocortical on the first try.
You did. It came close, but it came through.
Well, it was one of those ones where I started it and I almost bailed on it, but I was like, I think I got it. Well, it's nice they revisit Sulu. I'm not sure Takai pulled off being a captain. Maybe it's a blessing we never got a Captain Sulu show. Did we ever learn why this virus was manifesting itself at this moment? Did Voyager ever get the Ceruleum out of the nebula? Who knows? On second thought, my favorite part was seeing the succession of different kids dropping that girl, culminating in Bam Bam from the Flintstones. 3 oh my's out of 5.
Nice.
So, speaking of the virus, was the virus at all related to the nebula?
No. I don't think so.
Right? I don't think it was.
No, it's just the trick. All right. Well, so I have a point that I'm so glad that Undiscovered Bugado has brought this up. The idea that you can look at two nebula and say they look similar to each other is like looking at clouds and saying that cloud reminds me of a cloud I saw 50 years ago.
Yeah.
It makes no fucking sense.
Well, I was trying to work it out in my head where I was like, oh, is it the same nebula? And like that's what they're implying. The nebula.
Yeah.
But then they say it's not, though,
no,
right?
It's not. It's totally. Harry Kim has the incredible, boring description. He's like, they look the same, but they're really not the same.
Yeah, because I thought it was like, oh, because they're back in the nebula is somehow manifesting this memory,
right?
Because or something like that.
Yeah, or it's a time travel device because of the amount of whatever that silicon is in it or whatever.
Shit like that. Yeah. But that's not the case. And then ultimately, when it comes down to the virus, I don't think the virus is related to the nebula, unless
I think it's just the memory of the nebula is what triggers the memory engram that causes the virus to flare up in Tuvok at that point.
Okay. But that's fucking weak, man.
Yeah.
That was my other favorite bit is when the doctor is explaining what's going on, and he's like, "Yes, so when that guy died, the mind virus jumped into your mind, where it just hid itself in the back of your brain inside a repressed fake memory, and it's been eating you from the inside ever since." Yeah.
The Vulcans, coincidentally, if they have hidden trauma, it causes them to go crazy and get brain damage. Unfortunately for them. Yeah, I don't know. I was really hung up on the nebula. Like Tuvok has seen 5,000 nebula in the show alone. Like how can he be reminded of it? It's just a cloud in the distance. I don't know.
Yeah. I also really like Tuvok's explanation about why what happened when he left Starfleet, because it was very true to the character arc of most straight men, which is I was really into space for a while, and then I got horny and met some girls, and I never looked at space ever again.
I liked the in all sincerity, I feel like they do it quite frequently, but I liked the ending of like Tuvok's like, that's the decision I made, and Janeway has the thing, and he says like it was the logical decision, and Janeway says I'm sure it was, implying it's something else. I always like when they close little Vulcan conversations like that. Mm-hmm. Patrick Seba says, flashback, my God, man, what's that? An erstwhile old friend in uniform, pimped. What means pay this end? B-plot's pace languid, but they killed that kid. And now let's Sulu to best captains append. Did I fuck that one up? 4 exquisitely gilded teacups out of 5.
And why that memory?
Of the nebula?
No, of the girl dropping. Did it need to be traumatic? Was that the deal?
I think they say in the episode that it was like a memory it was like a game of telephone. Like who knows if that's actually what it was, but that's what it's become by the time that it got to Tuvok.
When the caveman child dropped the girl from 1955 off a cliff.
Looked unfortunately similar to Janeway from Child Janeway or whatever there. Yeah,
it did look like a child wearing Janeway's wig, yeah.
The caveman. Oh, man. I don't know. Anyway, let's see. Is that the last comment? No, there's 2 more. So, do you want the longer one or the shorter one?
Either one.
I'll do the first one then. It's longer. Rayo says, for me, this has always been an above-average episode of Voyager, as clearly effort was made to remake old sets and show us glimpses of what a Sulu show and his exploits in the Beta Quadrant would have been. However, I constantly see people trashing and hating on this episode because it doesn't measure up to Trials and Tribulations, which I find odd, since few, if any, episodes of Star Trek can measure up to that Trials and Tribulation episode anyway. Takei is excellent, the old uniforms and set look great, and I for one find this episode perfectly enjoyable and don't see why it has to be a competition with a winner and loser. The plot is just an excuse for nostalgia, but so is Trials and Tribulations, frankly, unless you really buy that there's an ultra-powerful orb of time that the Cardassians would willingly give up, and the Defiant crew and Odo would just leave unguarded for any Klingon agents to destroy the timeline with. They could have done better, but after seeing the Picard show, we all know what much worse looks like when it comes to destroying Legacy. 3.5 out of 5. And then Nick the Rat with Tuvok. I don't know why I said Tuvok. Nick the Rat with Flashback is our final comment.
Flashback. Calling Tuvok Mr. Vulcan seems racist for some reason. You get a great shot of the carpeting in this episode, and who doesn't like watching Tuvok playing with blocks? It was fun to get to see the Excelsior, but overall the brain virus thing seemed dumb. 3 girls screaming, "No!" out of 5.
Yep. A little bit of a spread of opinion from the patrons on this one. Interestingly,
all over the map there.
Yeah, it is a lot of 4s and no 5s, but a lot of high 4s. Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you for supporting the show, and thank you for leaving your comments about it. Clay, on our scale of 1 to 5, what are you going to give this one? Flashback.
I'm gonna give it a 2.
Yeah,
I think there was potential here to do something kind of fun and actually tell a story inside your nostalgic anniversary thing. But they didn't, so it is what it is.
Yeah, I think it's a 2 just because it's kind of a failure on a lot of different levels that makes it feel like a boring episode by the end of it. I think that, the lack of any kind of Tuvok story is really detrimental to it. The fact that he's just there. The memory virus engram thing is kind of silly. It kind of feels like an episode that's building up to something and it never gets there, and then they just take the easy way out, and that's pretty disappointing.
Exactly. Yeah, and I was wondering if the explosion of the moon Praxis, if they were worried that was going to somehow mess with the bomb that was inside Kronos.
Yeah, it's true. It's I'm reading a book about old miners, and it was like they're like people who dig, not like barely legal stuff, but.
Wes, old miners are called adults.
Barely legal.
I've seen those websites. I don't click on them, but I've seen them.
There are friends in my area, Clay. But they used to just use dynamite willy-nilly, and like a lot of the dynamite wouldn't blow up, and so they'd start digging again, and someone would just dig into the dynamite and blow themselves up, and it's like it's that kind of thing with Praxis. I think you just get too close. Yep.
Yeah. Man, mining, what a horrible fucking job.
Yeah, I know. You think you could find anything better to do?
Yeah, I don't know that much about it, but the little I do know makes it seem like
not fun.
Top 5 worst jobs you could possibly have.
Yep. Black Lung Flashback, the Praxis story. That's at 2s for both of us for Flashback. Unfortunate. I didn't think it was very good. I thought it was pretty boring. So there you go. 2. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. Thank you for supporting the show. Patreon.com/The Pensky Files is the place to go. Couple bucks, all that stuff. Clay, do you have anything you want to say?
If you want to follow Amanda and I as we take a trip into the Video Nasties archives, you can find those episodes on Patreon. In January, we are starting up our series on Video Nasties. We haven't started it yet as of recording this, so I don't know what the first movie is, but I'm sure it will be gross and bloody.
And controversial.
Yes. And Badass is also back at this point, so jump into season 2 of Batman Beyond with me and Sean. Batman
Beyond. How many seasons of Batman Beyond are left? Is this the last one?
There's 3 seasons.
Oh, okay.
So I think it shakes out to be about equal per season, but the middle season is like extra. It's like, I think the first season is 13 episodes. The second season I think is like 20.
Yep.
And then I think the third one might be another kind of shortened one.
Okay. Badass is back. All the other shows. Thanks everybody for listening to this one. And we'll be back with our next episode, which I think is called, what is it called? No, it's not basic. It's all fucked up. Where's the order? I hate Memory Alpha. It puts it in like production order. It's The Shoot is the next episode. So we will. Is that like
a wrestling shoot?
No, like it's Shoot with a C.
Is it an interview with Kevin Nash?
It always pops up on my YouTube for some reason. I always get interviews with Kevin Nash. Trashing people that he used to work with. I find
that's what you do. That's what you do after you retire from wrestling is you just talk shit about everyone you worked with.
Yeah,
because people will pay you money to hear you talk shit about the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, there's a lot of wrestling podcasts are just like there's like shorts of the Ultimate Warrior just complaining about everyone that he had seen and stuff like that. But who knows? And like Road Dogg complaining about The Rock, all weird stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Hard not to seem like it's bitter berry juice there from the Road Dogg, but what do I know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that stuff comes, I'm sure. It doesn't matter who it is. There's always it's always bitter for some reason or another.
Yeah, well, because The Rock is making millions of dollars and you're like on painkillers for the rest of your life.
Right, yeah. I mean, it goes the other way too, where you always end up finding an interview with someone who was like huge at the time who's still like, no, that guy fucking sucked.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's usually the ultimate
horror. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back with The Shoot next episode. Until then, have a good one.